Monsanto, who already has a monopoly on seed, already has a monopoly on herbicides and pesticides, produce Jane Wigington, who specializes in atmospheric science, and he's going to tell you a little bit more about Climate Corporation and what Monsanto is doing and what their goals might be. Thank you very much. My name is Dean Wigington with the website geoengineeringwatch.org. My most sincere gratitude to everyone who's had the courage to show up here today and make their voice heard. How many of you know that Monsanto is involved with engineering more than just our food, that our climate is being engineered? The gravity of what's happening in our skies cannot be overstated. Why does Monsanto buy Climate Corp? Because those in power that are involved with engineering the climate, not just, of course, Monsanto is a lower level on the ladder, but we have Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, the Department of Defense. Monsanto is involved with helping the companies that are engineering our climates by engineering seeds that will grow in a modified world. To those in power that are engineering our climate, Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, the Department of Defense, it's called geoengineering. Monsanto is engineering aluminum-resistant seeds to grow in soils that are sterilized from the fallout from these programs. We've done almost 100 tests in Northern California alone at the state-certified lab. We have so much heavy metal falling on us, it's changing soil pHs 10 to 12 times toward alkaline. Aluminum, barium, strontium, manganese, all of which named in climate engineering patents. The power structure is trying desperately to hide these programs from the public, because once the public starts to connect the dots, once the public starts to realize that their grandparents' Alzheimer's and dementia, children's autism is connected to these programs, at that point, the population will want answers and they'll want to know who's responsible. Climate Corp comes into this because those who are doing the weather modification also need to control the message. They need to control the information that's put out, because what we're looking at now is more scheduled weather than it is weather forecasting. Created for climate engineering, because if you can't grow anything that doesn't grow without an aluminum resistance seed, you can't get away from GMOs. You can't hide from it. And if we all are genetically modified ourselves, we're seeing horizontal gene mutation in all plant life now because of the particulates from these programs that are being absorbed. They're all bioavailable. So my point is this: GMO and geoengineering are inseparable.
Planet Earth, millions of people are coming together today like we just did, like we just are right now. Plant your own food. Try to create more foods, less lawns. More native plants. More native plants. With plants for the bees, plants for the butterflies. We need our pollinators. We need you guys to be pollinators. Pollinate the plants, plant the seeds.
We need to go deeper, people. We need to break the spell that we own the earth. It is slavery. We do not own the earth. Ecuador has put in its constitution the rights of nature. There is a movement across the United States in cities and counties to incorporate the rights of nature. It is not just about us. We need to love the bees, love the water, respect their rights. We need to become one with the earth, and she will give us the answers.
Eric Holt Jimenez from Food First. Please give him a round of applause.
Whose seeds?
Our seeds!
Whose seeds?
Our seeds!
Whose seeds?
Our seeds!
They got to hear that all around the world. I want to take a moment. I want to honor the moms. I want to honor the moms around the world who have organized the March Against Monsanto in order to protect their children from the poisons that Monsanto, DuPont, and Syngenta and others are putting in our food. Let's hear it for the moms. Yes, thank you, moms. I want to honor all of the farmers, all of the men and women around the world who refuse to plant GMO seeds and who are the keepers of our seeds, the keeper of our patrimony of seeds. We've co-evolved with seeds. We've co-evolved with our plants. We cannot afford, as a human race, to allow genetic engineering because it sets our entire civilization off course. All around the world today, people are protesting against Monsanto. There are likely hundreds of thousands of people just like you in the streets, just like you, from Seoul to London to Washington to Madrid to here, San Francisco, protesting for the right of food sovereignty, the right to know what's in our food, the right to grow our own food, the right not to be manipulated by a monopoly on with our food. So I want to honor all of you who are here. We're taking steps. We're getting close to a tipping point. You might feel as though there aren't very many of us here. You might feel like maybe we're the crazy fringe. You're not the fringe. You're part of the cutting edge. The cutting edge is all around the world. It's a cutting edge which refuses to give up its food system for monopoly profit. It's a cutting edge that wants to democratize the food system in favor of the poor, in favor of the farmers, in favor of the underserved communities that are being poisoned and who are dying because of GMOs, because of high fructose corn syrup, because of junk food. It's not like this system affects us all in the same way. Some of us can opt out. Some of us can buy organic food. Some of us can buy our way to a healthy life. 3/4 of the world cannot buy their way to a healthy life. They're forced to eat these foods. And that's why we're standing up against Monsanto, against DuPont, against Syngenta, against Cargill, against all the monopolies that control our food system. We're getting close to the tipping point. If any of you have heard Jeffrey Smith, he talks about the tipping point. Why do we permit GMOs in the United States? Why does Europe not permit GMOs? Why do 64 countries around the world demand labeling, have labeling? It's because of that tipping point. Because when consumers get close enough, when you get to 10%, 15% of people refuse to buy GMOs, when 15% of the people demand labeling, then it happens. Why? Because it's just good business. And if you look at Whole Foods, what has Whole Foods decided to do? They're not going to carry any products which are not labeled. So those of you who can afford to shop at Whole Foods now know whether there are GMOs in your food or not. But that's just an indicator of where things are going. Because as soon as everybody else decides, you know what, I'm not going to buy that product unless you tell me what's in it. That's the tipping point. We're almost there. We're almost there. Vermont opened up the floodgates not too long ago, demanding to know what's in their food. The Willamette Valley in Oregon just said, we're not going to allow GMOs in our valley anymore. You're contaminating our crops. It's over. Mendocino County said, we don't want your GMOs. It's starting to happen all around the United States. It's happening all around the world. I want to thank all of you for marching today. We're almost there. We can bring these guys down. We can forge a food system which is fair to everyone, which is sustainable, and which is our future. Thank you very much.
Monsanto monster does not care. It is going to take more and more of us, all of us, to stop them, to stop letting them take over our world, our nature, our planet, our food.
Wanted to introduce Emily Hardin. She's a human rights activist specialized in corporate responsibility, the theme of the day.
Hello, everybody. I just want to say thank you so much for coming out today. It's so great to see that so many people care about the environment and care about the health of our generation and future generations. And we must hold Monsanto accountable for all of these violations of the earth, of the environment, and of our human rights. I wanted to start with a story of lack of corporate accountability. During the winter of 1998 to 1999 in Lake Apopka, Florida, nearly 1,000 pelicans, wood storks, and gulls died, many of them literally dropping from the sky, in what was considered one of the worst incidents of bird mortality in the United States. The event was linked to a toxic pesticide known as toxaphene that was discovered in the tissues of fish at Lake Apopka that serve as the primary source of food for these migratory birds. Due to half a century of pesticide runoff from nearby farm fields, Lake Apopka is now known as the most polluted lake in Florida. Scientists found that in addition to fish, alligators in this lake suffer from physiological abnormalities that have been correlated with high levels of organophosphate pesticides, like those sold by Monsanto. Prior to the purchase of these farmlands in 1998 by the River Water Management District, the mostly African American community residing near Lake Apopka had worked the land for over 50 years. Lake Apopka farm workers and their families were exposed to what are known as persistent organic pollutants, or POPs, that are pesticides. Most of them have been banned now by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, or the EPA, because they were found to cause serious health effects on humans. These pesticides persist in the environment for long periods of time, and these farm workers continue to suffer from lupus, allergies, asthma, a plethora of health effects. These are very important issues. Corporate accountability is an important issue. None of the big 6 pesticide corporations who are responsible for polluting the environment with these pesticides have never been held accountable for their actions. These include Monsanto, Dow, BASF, Bayer, Syngenta. We need to change that. Pesticide contamination not only leads to environmental devastation, but it leads to violations of human rights. These are rights that we are all entitled to, inalienably, and without discrimination. We are all entitled to human rights. The health of our environment affects us. What can we do as individuals, as a group, and as a community to address the problems that are posed by pesticide contamination? California has the second highest rate of agricultural pesticide use in the entire country. We need to change these things. I firmly believe that education, community empowerment, and collective action are the keys to addressing these issues. We need to keep up to date on all the latest information, the news. We need to listen to each other, listen to our stories. We need to take collective action. We need to also make changes within education to teach our children about sustainable practices. Lastly, I just want to share with you a theory that was posed by a dear colleague of mine, and I really love this theory. Dr. Kearns of the Environment and Human Rights Advisory in Yachits, Oregon. He has a theory of how the modern concept of human rights came about. This theory is based on the philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer's definition of compassion as a kind of co-suffering, and states that human rights provide public validation for the sense of moral outrage felt from the shared experience of human suffering. I think that we can apply this idea of compassion to all living things, because all of life is inextricably linked. As activists, and we all are activists, no matter where our focus lies, whether it's on human rights, environmental justice, I think we all share a common aspiration for a more equitable, peaceful, ecologically sustainable, and socially just planet. But we all have to work together to make this happen, and we all have to work together to make these corporations accountable for their actions and for the health and livelihood of our generation and our future generations. Thank you.
Please look them up, Community Food and Justice. They do amazing work. Please support them. The initial instigator behind Prop 37, and she's been our leader throughout food transparency here in California and has exciting news to report. Pam.
So hi. Okay. So I've been listening, and we all know about what I call the zombie apocalypse. I look at this stuff all day, every day, and yeah, and you know, it's like really easy to get oneself kind of like immobilized, which is what I was doing for a little while, until I started looking at, and what I want to talk about today is the celebrations, because folks, things are completely different than they were in 2011. They are completely different, and it's because of people like you and you and you and you all working together, coming together here in California when we sparked, re-energized the GMO movement in California and the United States. Okay? So when we start, just two things that, I mean, there's so much that's happened. Two of the big signs that are really exciting, well, two of many, Greenpeace and Friends of the Earth had actually abandoned this issue in the United States before Proposition 37. Do you know that? They are the biggest GMO watchdogs across the world, and they had left. They weren't even working on it anymore because they felt like we were a lost cause. And I was talking, they're back now, I got to tell you, in full force because of what you guys did, what we all did together. And not only that, I was talking to someone from Europe, and she was telling me that the world is watching us, that we are now, the United States is now the hope for this movement, instead of us looking out all across the world. So those are two things. I want to tell you about other amazing stuff that's happened. Once we started here, we sparked other people just like us all across the United States to realize that when they joined together and they started talking about the truth, and they made a commitment to themselves to not give up until the job was done, they got a labeling law in Connecticut, a labeling law in a state that's run by Republicans, Maine. They are run by Republicans, and they overwhelmingly, in a landslide way, in both houses voted for labeling. Vermont, both of those two first states unfortunately had little triggers because they're little teeny states and they needed their community to join them and support them. Now Vermont has a full-on labeling bill. That all started here in California. Now I'm not saying we did it, but I'm just saying it's like the collective 100th monkey thing started here and it just kind of rippled across the country. We have... This week has been amazing, okay? Let's go to the week. There's been so much. 2 weeks ago, we got word that China is no longer going to be taking our GM soy. Okay? Then we found out that they're not feeding GMOs at all to their army. Okay? Then we found out Russia is now rejecting our genetically engineered crops. Okay? And in the small counties of Jackson and Josephine County up in Oregon, I was honored and blessed to be up there on Tuesday when they resoundingly, by landslides, voted in bans. Okay? Okay. And that, my friends, was the work of the people there. Jackson and Josephine County have been working in their communities, reaching out to people not like them, people gathering together the farmers, telling the truth. People didn't understand that there were farmers up there that their crops they had to plow them under because Syngenta was planting sugar beets next to their organic chard seed crops right next door and contaminating them. So they were having to plow them under. Some of the farmers lost their crop contracts. So when people started hearing what the truth was, and they started getting people like a former EPA guy who wrote standards for pesticides, telling people, yo, this is not good for our valley. They finally, a lot of people, and that's what it took, but it took the people, us, keeping committed to going out there and talking to people patiently, understanding that people, it's a lot to learn, it's a lot to assimilate, it's a big topic. You got to kind of like go slowly with people, because if you start off really intensely with the whole truth, it's so horrific, they can't even believe it and they shut down. So it's little pieces, drawing them in, supporting them, being compassionate, being kind. And through that kind and compassionate tenacity, they were able to shift normally people who might vote against it to their side, and now they're advocates. Okay, so then we have Oregon is now gathering signatures for a ballot initiative to label genetically engineered foods. Josephine County, one of the counties that got the ban, is now gathering signatures to ban all pesticides being sprayed in Josephine County. Okay? And they are the little county that could, you guys. They had no professional campaign manager. They only had $22,000 for a political campaign. You know, they did amazing work up there. 57% of the vote, okay? Colorado is gathering signatures right now for a ballot initiative to label. They're doing it grassroots. We've got work going on in Illinois. Michigan is waking up. We're doing all sorts of things with farmers. Scientists are starting to have support for coming out and telling the truth more and more. There's an amazing article called Muzzled by Monsanto that's about a genetic engineer who is one of their spokespeople, who is still very pro-GMO, but she started asking some questions about RNAi and she got shut down. So I think that these kinds of stories, Tyrone Hayes, if you read an article about him, Syngenta, he's over in Hawaii now. Let's talk about Hawaii. I mean, my God, it's just popping everywhere, you guys. What? Yeah, the Big Island Bandit. They've got on Kauai, even though they're getting sued now, it'll be really interesting to see where that goes, that they won the right to be able to know when their schools were being sprayed with all the pesticides there. You guys, stuff is happening. And one of the other things that I almost forgot about, my God, Humboldt County in California, yeah, the labelgmos.org people that worked on Prop 37 came together, formed a group, and they gathered enough signatures and they qualified, and they are on the ballot too this election in November to ban GMOs in Humboldt County. Think about that. If they get it, we'll have Josephine and Josephine County, we'll have Humboldt, Mendocino, Sonoma's working on it too, Marin. It'll be a GMO-free zone across the top and down the coast, okay? You guys, we're making tremendous inroads, and I think that what keeps me going is in the midst of the zombie apocalypse, which again I look at every day, okay? I think about us. I think about little balls, little bee balls bouncing. I think about wonderful outfits here. I think about the Mother Earth. I think about us coming together all over the world today. I think about how there are all these projects, these food sovereignty projects going on all around the country that aren't even being talked about. And yet GMO Free USA has these things about vertical gardens and O'Hare Airport and, all these places, growing these gardens of organic food, of people converting their lawns into food instead of, of lawns. And all of this stuff that's happening, and it isn't in the mainstream media, but we're hearing about it, we're seeing it. So have heart. Know that with personal commitment, we can get labeling here in California, because folks, the other thing that's going on is that we have miraculously, this is another miracle, we have miraculously, and I mean, okay, I'll be real personal now. I'm shocked. I didn't even want to work on this bill for a while because I felt like it was a waste of my time. Okay, I wanted to do a ballot initiative because I never thought our legislature would do anything great or do what they've been doing. But we have a bill to label GMOs that has gotten through 3 Senate committees. Okay? 3, you guys, and it's poised to go to the Senate floor next week, sometime between Wednesday and Friday. We don't have the exact date yet. I'm sorry, well, this week coming up, yeah, thanks. Anyway, so Wednesday the 28th through Friday the 30th, we can move. And if we can get this out of the Senate in California, do you have any idea what that will mean for this movement in this country? You guys, I mean, it blows my mind. So what do we need to do? We've been asking you to make phone calls to all committee members because we believe that if a senator or an assembly person is on a committee, they're representing the whole state. So we have a right to call them. Pakistan is only calling your senator. Okay, it does not help to call all the senators around the state because now they're doing a vote that will represent you in your districts. Now, you have a senator that's pretty supportive. I think it's even a co-author, right? Isn't Levine Leno? Oh yeah, this is a co-author. But what you can, so do call and support, but what you also can do is call your friends around the state and make sure, and family, and make sure that they're calling their representatives because we're cautiously optimistic, cautiously optimistic, but it's going to take pressure from us. You need to remember that Vermont, Connecticut, Maine, Jackson and Josephine and all the stuff going on in Hawaii, everywhere we've had success, it's because we, the people, have done it. We've made phone calls, okay? We've gone in and we've talked to our legislators and educated them. They talked, you know, one of the guys down in Southern California had 20 lobbyists in his office in 1 week. Okay, and if you the people that you talk to, if your friends and family live in districts that are run by Republicans, they must go in there and talk to them. Have a human face. Go gently. You reach out the hand, ask what the concerns are, and then educate them gently. Again, like anybody else, they're people. They eat. It is not a partisan issue, but it's becoming one in California, and I don't want to see that happen. So let's make an effort as people to reach out and do that magical thing that grassroots do. Ask your friends and family. You can go to labelgmos.org and we'll have updated action alerts there for you. Also, our Facebook page is Labeled GMOs on Facebook. This is SB 1381. That's SB 1381, and then the author is Noreen Evans. And so you can tell your friends and family and everybody, really, I can't tell you the magic that has happened. It's really been miraculous.